Epictetus was not born into comfort, nor into philosophical leisure. He began life as a slave in the Roman Empire, owned by a man of influence and severity. His body, according to later accounts, was permanently injured by mistreatment. He knew constraint not as metaphor, but as daily fact. And yet, from within that condition, he developed one of the most rigorous philosophies of freedom ever articulated. When Epictetus spoke of control, he did not speak from abstraction. He knew what it meant to lack authority over his own movements, his schedule, his safety. He could not choose where he lived. He could not refuse commands. But he discovered something that could not be confiscated. Something that did not bend under force. He called it proeresis, the faculty of choice, the capacity to determine one's own judgments. This distinction became the foundation of his teaching. Some things are up to us, he would say, and some things are not. Up to us are opinion, impulse, desire, aversion, in short, whatever is our own doing. Not up to us are the body, property, reputation, office, whatever is not our own doing. It is a severe division. Clean. Uncompromising. Epictetus did not blur it for comfort. Tonight, if you feel out of control, it is likely because something outside this boundary feels unstable. The future is uncertain. Another person behaves unpredictably. Your body signals discomfort. Circumstances shift without consultation. The mind begins to search for leverage. Epictetus would not attempt to reassure you that these externals will stabilize. He would instead return you to the only stable territory available, your faculty of judgment. If it is not up to you, he would say, then it is nothing to you. This does not mean it is irrelevant in practical life. It means it does not define your moral purpose. It does not determine whether you live well. For Epictetus, living well meant aligning your proeresis with nature, meaning with reason. It meant refusing to mistake externals for goods. The moment you treat what is not up to you as if it were essential, anxiety becomes inevitable. Consider the structure carefully. If you believe your peace depends on reputation, and reputation is not up to you, then your peace depends on something unstable. If you believe your peace depends on health, and health is not entirely up to you, then your peace depends on what may change without permission. Epictetus would ask quietly, why attach your tranquility to what is not yours? He was not indifferent to illness or loss. He simply refused to grant them authority over his inner faculty. This is the core night question. What exactly are you trying to control right now? Is it an outcome? Is it another person's reaction? Is it tomorrow's uncertainty? If so, Epictetus would gently classify it as not up to you. The mind resists this classification. It argues. It insists that certain outcomes must occur. But Epictetus' discipline is precise. If it does not originate in your own faculty of choice, it does not belong to your moral domain. What remains, then? Your interpretation. Your assent to impressions. Your response. When a thought arises, perhaps about something unresolved, Epictetus would call it an impression. An appearance presented to the mind. The critical step is assent. Do you agree with the impression? Do you declare it true, urgent, catastrophic? Or do you pause? Epictetus trained his students to say to each troubling impression, You are merely an appearance, and not the thing you claim to represent. This pause is freedom. Even if the body is restless, even if the future is opaque, even if others act without fairness, the pause remains available. He would remind you that disturbance does not come from events themselves, but from the judgments we attach to them. This is not a poetic claim. It is structural. Two people may encounter the same event. One collapses into distress. The other remains steady. The difference lies in interpretation. Tonight, notice the interpretation forming. Is the situation truly unbearable? Or is the judgment describing it as unbearable? Epictetus would narrow the frame again. Is this within your control? If yes, then act when action is possible. If no, then it is not your burden. He would not permit halfway answers. Not partially up to you. Not emotionally up to you. The division must be exact. Your body may feel tense, but even that tension is not entirely within your command. What is within your command is how you evaluate the tension. Is it a sign of disaster? Or is it a temporary bodily state? The discipline of assent applies here as well. You are not required to approve of discomfort, only to refrain from exaggerating it. Epictetus' own life required this discipline daily. As a slave, he could not prevent hardship, but he could refuse to interpret hardship as degradation of his character. His proeresis remained intact. That is his central doctrine. Your true self is your faculty of choice. It cannot be enslaved unless you surrender it. When you feel out of control at night, it is often because the mind has extended itself into territories it does not own. It tries to govern fate. It tries to manage other minds. It tries to secure permanence. Epictetus would calmly withdraw that extension. Return to what is yours. Your judgment about what has happened. Your intention regarding what you will do if action becomes necessary. Your refusal to call externals good or bad in themselves. He uses stark language. If you desire what is not up to you, you will be disturbed. If you avoid what is not up to you, you will be miserable. But if you desire only what is within your control, no one can compel you. This is not mystical safety. It is logical coherence. Nothing external can block your capacity to judge with reason. Nothing external can prevent you from choosing integrity. The body may weaken. Circumstances may shift. But your proeresis remains. As the night grows quieter, the philosophy remains firm. Some things are up to you. Some things are not. Confuse them and you suffer. Distinguish them and you are free. The examples can fade now. The structure remains. Impression. Assent. Choice. Action or release. If it is yours, shape it. If it is not, let it be. Epictetus would end not with comfort, but with clarity. You do not control events. You control your judgments about them. You do not command the future. You command your response to it. You do not possess outcomes. You possess the faculty that meets them. Guard that faculty. Desire only what depends on you. Refuse to call anything else necessary. And you will discover that even in uncertainty, even in limitation, even in the quiet restlessness of night, your freedom was never outside you at all. Epictetus eventually gained his freedom in the legal sense, but by the time that occurred, he had already articulated a deeper freedom that did not depend on legal status. When he later taught in Nicopolis, after exile from Rome, his students would gather in modest rooms lit by oil lamps, listening as he spoke with unusual directness. He did not flatter them. He did not soften the boundary between what is up to us and what is not. He sharpened it. He would ask them, almost impatiently, "What are you disturbed about? Is it something in your power? If it is in your power, then why hesitate? If it is not, then why claim it as yours?" There is something austere in this approach. It leaves little room for indulgent rumination. And yet it is not cruel. It is protective. Because when you attempt to own what is not yours, you place your stability in unstable hands. Consider how often nighttime unrest arises from rehearsing conversations that have already happened. You replay tone, wording, expression. You attempt to reconstruct how another person perceived you. But another person's perception belongs to them. It is not within your proeresis. To revisit it as if it were adjustable is to mistake its category. Epictetus would return to classification. What is up to you? Your choice to speak honestly at the time. Your choice to act with fairness. Your choice now to evaluate the event rationally. What is not up to you? Their interpretation. Their memory of it. Their future behavior. If you have acted according to reason, then your domain is complete. If you have not, then correction lies in your next action, not in revising the past internally. This is the discipline of action. Do what is in accordance with reason now. Release what no longer belongs to you. Another common disturbance is anticipation. The mind moves forward into hypothetical futures. It constructs possible failures, losses, embarrassments. Epictetus would describe this as desiring that events conform to your preferences rather than to reality. He advised instead, do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do happen, and you will go on well. This is often misunderstood. It is not passive resignation. It is the adjustment of desire. You cannot guarantee outcomes, but you can train desire to align with whatever outcome occurs. If tomorrow brings success, accept it without attaching identity to it. If tomorrow brings difficulty, accept it as material for virtue. In both cases, your proeresis remains intact. The late-night sense of being out of control often arises from imagining that well-being depends on a specific arrangement of externals. Epictetus would dismantle this belief carefully. Well-being depends only on the correct use of impressions. An impression appears. If this goes poorly, I will not be able to bear it. Pause. Is that within your control? The event is not. The judgment that you cannot bear it is. And the judgment can be revised. You have borne difficulty before. Not because it was pleasant, but because the faculty of choice endured. Epictetus did not promise immunity from pain. He promised immunity from compulsion. No one can force you to judge irrationally unless you consent. Consent is subtle. It happens quickly. A thought appears, and without examination, you declare it true. thought requires interruption. Wait. Examine. Classify. Assent or refuse assent. This process does not eliminate uncertainty. It places uncertainty in its proper domain. The body may feel restless tonight. That is an impression accompanied by sensation. The sensation is not up to you. The interpretation, this means something is wrong, is. You can notice sensation without adding narrative. Epictetus language grows simpler as it repeats. Do not demand that things happen as you wish. Do not fear what is not yours to avoid. Do not attach your identity to what can be taken. What remains cannot be taken. Your proeresis. As the hour advances, examples become unnecessary. You are presented with impressions. You have the power to examine them. You have the power to withhold assent. You have the power to align desire only with what is up to you. Nothing else is required. If something must be done tomorrow, you will do it then. Action belongs to its proper time. Anxiety does not improve it. If something cannot be altered, your agitation does not alter it. Epictetus would ask, why choose to be troubled by what is beyond you? The question is not accusatory. It is clarifying. You are troubled because you have momentarily forgotten the boundary. Remember it. Some things are up to you. Some things are not. Keep desire and aversion confined to what is yours. Let the rest unfold according to its own nature. Your freedom lies there, not in shaping the world, but in shaping your response to it. Epictetus was known to press his students with a kind of philosophical severity that, at first, felt almost uncomfortable. When someone complained about misfortune, he would not immediately sympathize. He would ask, what exactly has been harmed? Your body, your possessions, your reputation, or your faculty of choice. If the faculty of choice remains capable of acting in accordance with reason, then nothing essential has been damaged. This distinction matters at night, when the mind tends to equate discomfort with harm. A difficult conversation becomes a threat to identity. An uncertain future becomes a threat to existence. Epictetus would slow this conclusion down. Has your capacity to judge been removed? Has your ability to choose integrity been confiscated? If not, then your true good remains untouched. He insisted that good and bad reside only in the use of impressions. External events are materials. They are neither virtuous nor vicious. They acquire moral quality only when your proeresis engages them. If you respond with resentment, you create disturbance within. If you respond with reason, you preserve stability. The event itself remains neutral. This is not denial of consequence. It is a precise allocation of value. When you feel out of control, it is often because you are attempting to secure outcomes as if they were moral necessities. Epictetus would ask you to consider whether you have mistaken preference for necessity. It is natural to prefer health over illness, success over failure, approval over criticism. Epictetus did not deny preference. He called such things preferred indifference. They may be chosen when available, but they do not determine whether you live well. Living well depends solely on virtue, on the correct use of proeresis. This reclassification reduces pressure. If something goes poorly tomorrow, it is not automatically a moral failure. If someone judges you harshly, it is not automatically degradation. Only your own misuse of judgment would qualify as that. Late at night, the mind often treats hypothetical scenarios as if they are verdicts already delivered. Epictetus would remind you that you are rehearsing what has not occurred. Why fear what is not present? If it arrives, you will meet it with the same faculty you have now. If it does not arrive, you have exhausted yourself unnecessarily. He would bring you back to present impressions. Right now, what is occurring? A thought, a bodily sensation, a projection. You may observe it. You may question it. You may decline to agree with it. This is not suppression. It is discipline. Epictetus compared life to a role assigned in a play. The role may be short or long, dignified or humble. Your responsibility is not to choose the role, but to perform it well. If you are assigned uncertainty, then uncertainty is your material. If you are assigned difficulty, then difficulty is your material. The excellence lies in performance, not in selection. This metaphor clarifies control. You do not write the script of events. You interpret your lines. The sense of being out of control diminishes when you accept that control was never total. It was always confined to interpretation and response. Epictetus would say, do not seek to control what belongs to another. Do not seek to control what belongs to nature. Govern only your own judgments. As the night deepens, the argument simplifies. Impressions arise. You examine them. You ask, is this up to me? If yes, prepare to act when the time comes. If no, release the claim. The body may still feel traces of tension. But tension does not dictate judgment. You are not required to add alarm to sensation. Epictetus' teaching is spare, almost austere. Freedom is internal. Disturbance is chosen through mistaken assent. Virtue is the only good. Everything else is material. If you confine desire to what depends on you, you cannot be compelled. If you refuse to call externals necessary, you cannot be deprived. The mind begins to quiet not because uncertainty disappears, but because the boundary becomes clear. Some things are up to you. Some things are not. Guard the distinction. Keep your proeresis aligned with reason. And whatever circumstances unfold beyond that boundary, they remain what they always were, not yours to command, only yours to meet. Epictetus would sometimes ask his students to imagine losing something they cherished, a possession, a position, even a person, not to cultivate coldness, but to clarify ownership. When you kiss your child, he said, remind yourself that you are kissing a mortal. When you hold a cup, remember that it is breakable. This was not morbidity. It was preparation of judgment. You are not entitled to permanence. You are entrusted temporarily. If you confuse temporary custody with ownership, loss feels like injustice. If you recognize contingency from the beginning, loss remains painful, but not philosophically shocking. Feeling out of control at night often arises from the illusion that stability should have been guaranteed. Epictetus would gently dismantle that assumption. The body is vulnerable. Relationships are contingent. Circumstances are variable. None of this violates nature. It expresses nature. What would violate nature is to expect what it does not promise. The discipline here is subtle. You are allowed to prefer health. You are allowed to prefer continuity. But you must not demand them as conditions for inner steadiness. When an impression says, "This must not change," pause. Is that within your control? No. Then revise the judgment. This may change. If it does, I will respond with reason. The fear reduces because the demand has been withdrawn. Epictetus distinguished between what happens to you and what you make of what happens. The first belongs to fate. The second belongs to you. If fate removes something external, it has acted within its domain. If you declare yourself ruined because of it, you have acted within yours. The difference is decisive. Late-night thinking often circles around imagined deprivation. What if I lose this? What if I fail? What if I am rejected? Epictetus would not answer these with reassurance that loss will not occur. He would answer with a stronger claim: even if loss occurs, your proeresis remains capable of virtue. That is the only guarantee he offers. And it is sufficient. Because if virtue remains possible, then the good life remains possible. He would insist that disturbance comes from attaching the label good or bad to things that are merely events. When you call something a catastrophe, you intensify its power over you. Try reducing the label. Instead of catastrophe, say event. Instead of ruin, say change. Instead of unbearable, say difficult. This is not linguistic trickery. It is correction of judgment. Epictetus trained himself to see externals as materials for virtue. Poverty becomes material for endurance. Criticism becomes material for patience. Illness becomes material for courage. If everything can be material, then nothing is purely adversarial. The feeling of being out of control begins to shift. You do not control the material given. You control how you shape it. The sculptor does not choose the nature of stone, only how to carve it. Your stone tonight may be uncertainty. Carve it with reason. As the hour moves on, the explanations grow leaner. Events occur. They are not good or bad in themselves. Your judgment assigns value. Value determines disturbance. Revise the judgment. Confine desire to what is up to you. Accept that what is not up to you may change. Do not call what can be taken yours in the deepest sense. Your body may rest now without needing guarantees about tomorrow. Epictetus did not promise safety from change. He promised freedom within change. That freedom lies in the refusal to mistake externals for goods. If they remain, use them well. If they depart, let them depart. Your proeresis remains. Guard it. Align it with reason. And when impressions arise in the quiet of night, examine them carefully before granting assent. Epictetus was attentive not only to what we desire, but to what we fear. He understood that fear is often the mirror image of misplaced desire. If you desire what is not up to you, you will also fear losing it. The two movements are linked, and both extend beyond the boundary of your proper domain. He would ask, what are you afraid of losing? Health, reputation, a particular outcome. None of these are fully within your control. Therefore, to fear their loss as if it were the loss of your true good is to misidentify the good itself. For Epictetus, the only true loss is the loss of integrity and judgment. If you respond to difficulty with dishonesty, bitterness, or cowardice, then you have misused your proeresis. That is harm. That is within your power to avoid. But if an external change is against your preference, and you maintain rational composure, nothing essential has been taken. At night, the mind sometimes rehearses imagined humiliation. It envisions failure and the collapse of standing. Epictetus would ask you to examine the premise, does reputation belong to you? No. It belongs to others' judgments. And if it belongs to others' judgments, it cannot be secured by your anxiety. You may act honorably. You may speak truthfully. You may prepare diligently. All of this is within your domain. But the interpretation of these actions lies elsewhere. Therefore, attach yourself to the action, not to the verdict. He would say that if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish or stupid with regard to external things. In other words, detach your identity from appearances. This detachment does not produce apathy. It produces steadiness. When you no longer require approval as proof of worth, approval loses its power to disturb. The same logic applies to outcomes. If you treat success as necessary for self-respect, then uncertainty becomes intolerable. If you treat success as a preferred indifferent, welcome when it comes, irrelevant to virtue when it does not, uncertainty becomes manageable. The structure holds. Some things are up to you. Some things are not. Confuse them, and fear multiplies. Clarify them, and fear contracts. Epictetus would also caution against identifying yourself with the body too completely. The body is entrusted to you, but it is not identical with your faculty of choice. It may become ill. It may weaken. It may react at night with tension or restlessness. These are events within nature. You may prefer comfort, but you are not harmed morally by discomfort. Notice the distinction. Sensation is not judgment. Restlessness is not catastrophe. Pain is not disgrace. Your proeresis remains capable of choosing how to interpret sensation. As thoughts continue to arise, you can apply the same method repeatedly without strain. Impression. Pause. Is this within my control? If yes, I will address it in its proper time. If no, I will not treat it as mine. The repetition is deliberate. Epictetus believed that philosophy must be practiced daily, not admired abstractly. The mind requires training to stop reaching beyond its limits. Tonight is practice, not dramatic transformation, just careful classification. You do not control the unfolding of tomorrow. You control your preparation and judgment. You do not control how others think. You control whether you speak and act in accordance with reason. You do not control the stability of circumstances. You control whether you attach your well-being to them. The sense of being out of control fades when you relinquish the illusion of total control. What remains is precise control, narrower, but stronger. Your proeresis, your assent, your intention. That is sufficient territory for one mind. Epictetus would close this stage of reflection by reminding you that no one can harm you unless you consent to be harmed in your judgment. They may injure the body. They may alter circumstance. But your ruling faculty remains yours unless you surrender it. So do not surrender it. Keep desire aligned only with what depends on you. Keep fear confined only to misuse of your own judgment. And whatever the night presents, sensation, thought, projection, meet it first with examination, not agreement. Epictetus would sometimes say that we are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them. This statement is repeated so often that it risks becoming familiar. But he did not intend it as a slogan. He meant it as a diagnostic tool. If you are disturbed, then examine the view. What exactly are you telling yourself about the situation? That it should not be happening. That it will ruin you. That you cannot endure it. Each of these is a judgment layered onto an event. Remove the layer, and the event remains, but the agitation shifts. He would insist that impressions come uninvited. You cannot prevent their arrival. But assent is voluntary. Between impression and assent there is a narrow space. That space is your freedom. Late at night, impressions often arrive with force. They feel urgent, amplified by quiet. But urgency is not proof of truth. It is only intensity of presentation. Pause within that narrow space. You do not need to decide the entire meaning of your life in this hour. You need only decide whether to agree with the current impression. Epictetus trained his students to respond to disturbing thoughts almost conversationally. Wait for me a little, impression. Let me see who you are and what you represent. This is not denial. It is investigation. If the impression concerns something not up to you, then it does not belong to your moral purpose. It may require a practical response later, but it does not require agitation now. If the impression concerns something up to you, then you prepare to act when action is possible. The night is rarely the time for action. Therefore, most impressions at this hour belong to the category of release. Epictetus also emphasized that we often desire to control not events, but certainty. We want assurance about outcomes. We want guarantees that our efforts will succeed, that relationships will endure, that plans will unfold as imagined. But certainty about externals is not within human reach. To demand it is to set yourself against reality. He would say instead, prepare yourself for whatever may happen, and you will not be caught off guard. Preparation here does not mean rehearsing every negative scenario. It means strengthening your proeresis so that it can meet any scenario with reason. If you lose something external, you practice non-attachment. If you gain something external, you practice moderation. If you encounter insult, you practice patience. If you encounter praise, you practice humility. Every event becomes material for virtue. When everything is material, nothing is purely threatening. The sense of being out of control diminishes because you recognize that your task does not depend on the script of events. Your task depends on your interpretation of them. As the reflection continues, language simplifies. Do not demand that life obey your preference. Do not call what is not yours mine. Do not attach your tranquility to what can be taken. Guard your faculty of choice. Align it with reason. This alignment does not require physical stillness. It requires intellectual honesty. If something is beyond your control, admit it. If something depends on you, accept the responsibility calmly. The boundary is clear. Within, judgment, intention, desire, aversion. Outside, body, reputation, outcomes, timing. The night may still hold uncertainty. That is its nature. But uncertainty about externals does not equate to instability in judgment. Your proeresis remains capable of clarity. It remains capable of withholding assent. It remains capable of choosing integrity over agitation. Epictetus did not promise that this practice would eliminate all discomfort. He promised that it would eliminate unnecessary disturbance. And unnecessary disturbance is what often fills the mind after dark. So continue the quiet work. Impression. Pause. Classify. Assent or release. Some things are up to you. Some things are not. Keep them distinct. And in that distinction, find the only form of control that cannot be removed, control over your own judgment. Epictetus often reminded his students that you do not control the role assigned to you, only how you perform it. Life, he would say, is like a play. The playwright determines whether your part is long or short, prosperous or obscure, strong or impaired. Your task is not to revise the script. Your task is to play the given role well. If tonight you feel that circumstances have written you into a part you did not request, notice the resistance that forms around that fact. The resistance is not against the event itself. It is against the loss of authorship. You wanted to write the story. Epictetus would gently but firmly correct this assumption. You are never the author of externals. You are the steward of response. This distinction is not humiliating. It is clarifying. When you try to control the length of the play, anxiety grows. When you focus on the integrity of performance, attention narrows to what is possible. Your judgments, your intentions, your character, these are available even now. He would also ask you to consider how much of your late-night unrest comes from attempting to control other minds. You want someone to understand you in a particular way. You want someone to decide differently. You want someone to feel what you feel. But another person's judgment is not yours to command. To hinge your tranquility on it is to step outside your proper domain. Epictetus was severe on this point, not because he lacked compassion, but because he valued freedom. If your peace depends on another's perception, you have made yourself their subordinate. Instead, he would advise, examine whether your own judgments are aligned with reason. If they are, remain steady. If they are not, correct them. In either case, the work remains internal. The quiet of the room may feel like isolation, yet Epictetus would say that you are never deprived of the one companion that matters, your rational faculty. This faculty is capable of self-examination. It is capable of restraint. It is capable of consenting only to what is true. So return to the present concern. Is it within your power? If not, release it from the demand that it obey you. If yes, know what action would express virtue, and allow that action to wait until daylight. The mind often confuses urgency with importance. At night, every thought presents itself as decisive. But importance is measured by relation to virtue, not by intensity of feeling. Does this thought help you act with wisdom, justice, courage, or moderation? If it does not, it is excess. Epictetus trained his students to strip away excess. What remains? A situation. A judgment about the situation. The freedom to revise the judgment. This is sufficient. As the hour deepens, simplify further. You are not responsible for outcomes. You are responsible for choices. You are not responsible for others' reactions. You are responsible for your own ascent. You are not responsible for the duration of events. You are responsible for the quality of your response. Keep separating. Inside. Outside. Choice. Circumstance. Reason. Impression. The categories become steady markers in the dark. Epictetus would insist that tranquility is not produced by silence, but by correct classification. When everything is sorted into its proper column, confusion loses strength. The body may still feel tension. That belongs to the body. The future may remain uncertain. That belongs to the future. Your faculty of choice remains here. Untouched. Capable. Sufficient. Hold to that. Not as comfort. As fact. Epictetus would sometimes ask his students to imagine loss deliberately, not to darken their mood, but to correct attachment. You kiss a child, he would say, and you remind yourself that you kiss a mortal. You admire a possession, and you remind yourself that it is fragile. Not because you expect immediate tragedy, but because clarity prevents shock. Late at night, fear often disguises itself as surprise. You imagine that certain outcomes would be unbearable precisely because you have treated them as impossible. Epictetus removes the illusion of exemption. Nothing external is guaranteed. Not health. Not reputation. Not continuity. But notice what follows from that. If loss is possible, and you know it is possible, then its mere possibility is no longer an ambush. It becomes part of the structure of reality. And reality is not hostile. It is simply ordered according to causes beyond your authorship. Epictetus would say, when you resist what is inevitable, you exhaust yourself. When you accept that externals are loaned, not owned, the grip loosens. This does not mean indifference. It means proportion. You care without clinging. You engage without claiming permanence. The disturbance comes not from loving something, but from declaring it indispensable to your peace. At this hour, perhaps your mind circles around something you fear losing, or something you have already lost. The thought repeats because it assumes that your stability depended on that external. Epictetus interrupts that assumption. Your stability depends on your use of impressions. If you respond to loss with bitterness, the bitterness is your addition. If you respond with reflection, the reflection is your choice. The event does not dictate the character of your response. Only your judgment does. He would also remind you that you have endured previous disturbances. At the time, they felt definitive. They felt final. Yet here you are, capable of examining a new disturbance. The continuity lies not in events, but in the faculty that evaluates them. That faculty is still intact. The night amplifies uncertainty, but it cannot remove your capacity to reason unless you surrender it. So reduce the question. Is the feared event happening now? If not, then what is present is only an impression. Is the lost thing under your control? If not, then it was always outside your domain. Is your character intact? If yes, then your essential good remains. Epictetus defined good narrowly, the proper use of proeresis. Nothing else qualified. Wealth was not good in itself. Health was not good in itself. Approval was not good in itself. They could be preferred. They could be useful. But they were not moral goods. The only good was virtuous choice. When this definition settles, anxiety shifts. Because anxiety often arises from mislabeling externals as goods. Correct the label. Preferred, perhaps. Pleasant, perhaps. But not good in the strict sense. Good belongs to judgment. And judgment is yours. As the reflections continue, the language thins. Externally uncertain. Internally capable. Externally changing. Internally able to choose. Externally unstable. Internally governed by reason. Epictetus would not promise that circumstances will improve. He would promise that your freedom does not depend on improvement. Your freedom depends on recognizing the boundary and remaining within it. Even now. Especially now. In the quiet, when there is nothing to perform, nothing to display, nothing to defend. Only impressions. Only assent. Only choice. And that is enough. Epictetus spoke often about discipline, but not the discipline of punishment or harshness. He meant the discipline of attention. The discipline of noticing where the mind drifts beyond its jurisdiction. Most disturbance begins there, when attention extends outward and attempts to secure what cannot be secured. You may notice, if you look carefully, that your mind does not simply register events. It negotiates with them. It argues. It pleads. It demands alternative outcomes. And when reality does not comply, frustration follows. Epictetus would say that this negotiation is misguided from the start. Reality is not a partner in debate. It unfolds according to causes that are not yours to command. Your sphere is narrower, but within that sphere you possess authority. Authority over interpretation. Authority over assent. Authority over intention. When you feel out of control, examine whether you have misplaced your authority. Have you tried to govern outcomes instead of judgments? Have you tried to guarantee results instead of refining character? This misplacement is subtle. It feels responsible. It feels engaged. But it is often an attempt to eliminate uncertainty entirely. Epictetus did not seek to eliminate uncertainty. He sought to eliminate confusion about what uncertainty applies to. Uncertainty applies to externals. It does not apply to your capacity to choose wisely in response to them. That capacity may be exercised well or poorly, but it is always available. Consider how often late-night thinking revolves around what if. What if this fails? What if they leave? What if I cannot handle it? Each what if assumes a future event combined with a prediction about your own inadequacy. Epictetus would separate these. The future event is outside your control. Your adequacy depends on how you use your reason when the moment arrives. You do not need to solve hypothetical futures tonight. You need only strengthen the faculty that will meet them. Strengthening does not require tension. It requires clarity. Clarity about the dichotomy of control. Clarity about what belongs to you. Clarity about what never did. The more precisely you draw that line, the quieter the mind becomes. Not because circumstances change, but because the internal conflict lessens. Conflict arises when you demand control where there is none. Release the demand. Epictetus would also remind you that reputation, status, and the opinions of others are among the most deceptive externals. They appear solid, yet they exist entirely in other minds. To lose sleep over them is to attempt governance of invisible territories. You cannot command another's evaluation. You can examine whether your actions align with justice. If they do, let the evaluation fall where it will. If they do not, correct the action. In either case, the work is internal. As the hour moves forward, reduce the structure further. What is happening now? An impression. What is required? Examination. What is within reach? Assent or refusal. Nothing more. The body may still carry energy. Let it. The body belongs partly to externals. The world may remain unresolved. Let it. The world was never yours to finalize. Your faculty of choice remains capable of restraint. Restrain it from exaggeration. Restrain it from catastrophic prediction. Restrain it from self-condemnation. Epictetus did not advocate self-accusation. He advocated correction. If you find that you have assented too quickly to a troubling impression, simply withdraw assent. No drama. No harsh judgment. You are practicing. Practice implies repetition. Repetition implies patience. So again. Some things are up to you. Some things are not. Attend only to what is yours. And let the rest stand where it has always stood, outside your command, outside your obligation, outside your control. Epictetus insisted that the greatest confusion in human life comes from misidentifying what we are. If you believe you are your body, then every threat to the body becomes a threat to you. If you believe you are your reputation, then every rumor becomes an injury. If you believe you are your possessions, then every loss feels like diminishment. But Epictetus drew the boundary differently. You are not the body, though you care for it. You are not reputation, though you may prefer honor to disgrace. You are not property, though you may use it. You are the faculty that makes use of these things. The user of impressions. The one who consents or refuses. This distinction is not poetic. It is structural. If you misidentify yourself, you will defend the wrong territory. And you will exhaust yourself guarding what was never truly yours. Late at night, identity often becomes entangled with circumstance. A setback feels like a verdict. A criticism feels like exposure. An uncertainty feels like collapse. Epictetus would slow this down. Is the event identical with you? Or is it something presented to you? If it is presented to you, then you are prior to it. You are the examiner. The one who decides how to classify it. When you internalize this, a quiet shift occurs. The mind stops fusing with impressions and begins observing them. Not with detachment in the modern sense of emotional distance, but with philosophical discrimination. This is merely an impression. This is merely an interpretation. This is merely a forecast. None of these are identical with your proeresis. And because they are not identical with it, they cannot compel it. Compulsion belongs to externals acting on the body. Judgment belongs to you. Epictetus endured slavery. His body was constrained. His social standing was defined by another's will. Yet he maintained that his faculty of choice remained free unless he surrendered it. This was not abstraction. It was lived conviction. If he could locate freedom there, under constraint, then the definition deserves attention. Freedom is not the absence of limitation. Freedom is the correct use of what remains within your power. At this hour, perhaps you feel limited by circumstance. Perhaps you cannot change what is unfolding. But limitation of circumstance does not equal limitation of judgment. Ask quietly, what is required of my character here? Patience, honesty, endurance, restraint. Whatever the answer, it concerns your internal stance, not the rearrangement of the external world. And because it concerns your stance, it remains accessible. As the reflections then simplify further, you are not the event. You are not the opinion. You are not the forecast. You are the faculty that evaluates them. Keep that faculty steady. Do not hand it over to fear. Do not hand it over to desire. Keep it aligned with reason. Events move. Opinions shift. Forecasts dissolve. But the capacity to judge remains, moment by moment. That capacity is your proper domain. Guard it. Use it carefully. And let everything else belong to the realm where it has always belonged, outside you. Epictetus would sometimes reduce the entire discipline to a single exercise. When something troubles you, say to yourself, this is nothing more than an appearance. Not nothing in the sense of trivial, but nothing in the sense of not yet judged. An appearance waits for evaluation. It does not carry its final meaning within itself. At night, appearances often feel complete. They present themselves as conclusions. Failure, loss, rejection, disaster. But these are not raw events. They are interpretations layered onto events. Strip them back. What is actually present? A memory, a possibility, a sensation in the body, a prediction about tomorrow. Each of these is an appearance. Epictetus would ask you not to argue emotionally with the appearance, but to test it logically. Does this concern what is up to me? If not, then it does not concern my moral purpose. It may concern my preferences, but preferences are secondary. The mind resists this simplicity because it has grown accustomed to dramatization. It believes that intense concern equals responsibility. Yet Epictetus separates responsibility from agitation. You can fulfill your responsibilities without surrendering your judgment to panic. Panic adds nothing to virtue. It adds urgency, but not clarity. If something must be addressed tomorrow, It will be addressed more effectively by a mind that has not exhausted itself in hypothetical rehearsals. So the practice now is modest. Do not solve. Classify. Do not predict. Distinguish. Do not condemn yourself for feeling disturbed. Examine the judgment that sustains the disturbance. If you find exaggeration, reduce it. If you find assumption, question it. If you find attachment to what is not yours, loosen it. Epictetus was clear that philosophy is training. Training implies repetition under varying conditions. Tonight's condition is fatigue mixed with uncertainty. The exercise remains the same. Some things are up to you. Some things are not. Keep returning to this division until it feels less like a concept and more like a reflex. As the thoughts slow, reduce even further. What is outside your control cannot harm your character. What is within your control cannot be taken unless you yield it. Your peace depends on correct use of what is within. Nothing more. Not outcome. Not approval. Not certainty. Only the integrity of your choice. Epictetus would not offer comfort beyond this boundary. He would not promise that events align with your preference. He would only insist that your freedom lies in refusing to mislabel externals as goods or evils. They are materials. Your judgment shapes their use. So let appearances pass before you like travelers. Examine them briefly. Accept or decline. No struggle. No attachment. Only discernment. And in that discernment, the sense of being out of control begins to lose its foundation, because control was never meant to extend beyond this narrow, powerful faculty of choice. Remain there, within that boundary, where your judgment is yours, and nothing external has authority over it. Epictetus would end not with grandeur, but with steadiness. He did not promise transcendence. He promised alignment. Alignment between what you expect from the world and what the world actually is. The world is change. The world is uncertainty. The world is a sequence of causes unfolding beyond your authorship. If you demand permanence from what is designed to move, friction is inevitable. If you expect certainty from what is structured by probability, anxiety is predictable. But if you adjust expectation to structure, something softens. You stop arguing with gravity. You stop negotiating with impermanence. You begin cooperating with reality instead of contesting it. Epictetus would say, do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will go on well. Not because events become pleasant, but because resistance dissolves. This is not passivity. It is strategic acceptance. When you accept that rain falls, you bring shelter. You do not accuse the sky. When you accept that opinions differ, you refine your character. You do not attempt to engineer every mind. Late at night, the mind imagines that control equals safety. But control of externals is unstable. It shifts with every new condition. The only stable ground is the governance of your own faculty of choice. That ground is small, but it is solid. You cannot command outcomes. You can command intention. You cannot guarantee success. You can guarantee effort aligned with reason. You cannot eliminate loss. You can eliminate hate self-betrayal. And self-betrayal, to Epictetus, meant acting against your own understanding of what is right. So ask one last quiet question before sleep approaches. Have I done what reason required of me today? Not perfectly. Not heroically. Simply honestly. If the answer is yes, then the day is complete. If the answer is no, then the correction belongs to tomorrow. Guilt rehearsed in darkness improves nothing. Clear intention at daylight improves much. The body grows heavier now. Let it. The future remains unwritten. Let it. Other minds continue their own judgments. Let them. You remain responsible for one thing only, the quality of your ascent. Guard it gently. Use it carefully. Release what does not belong to it. There is a narrow territory that is truly yours. Your judgments. Your intentions. Your character. Everything else is loaned, shifting, uncertain. This is not bleak. It is liberating. Because when you stop attempting to govern the entire horizon, you can finally stand firmly on the ground beneath your feet. Epictetus would not tuck you in with optimism. He would leave you with clarity. Some things are up to you. Some things are not. Attend to what is yours, and allow the rest to unfold without your resistance. In that boundary, quiet becomes possible. Not because the world is silent, but because you are no longer arguing with it. And that is enough.